The Mandy Stavik case, a 30-year quest for justice in Acme. Acme, Washington, is a tiny speck of a town, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody else. Tucked away in the rural expanse of Whatcom County, it's a community defined by its simplicity and trust. Residents gather at the local diner for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, swapping stories over coffee and pie. They shop at the general store, a one-stop hub for everything from groceries to gossip. Doors are often left unlocked, a testament to the unspoken faith that binds this close-knit enclave. It's a place where safety feels like a birthright, until November 24, 1989, when that illusion shattered, leaving a wound that would fester for decades. A golden girl and a fateful run. Mandy Stavik was the pride of Acme. At 18, she was a freshman at Central Washington University, home for Thanksgiving break to spend time with her family. She was a standout in every sense. Captain of the Mount Baker High basketball team, a cheerleader with an infectious smile, a top student with dreams of becoming an airline pilot. She wanted to do everything, and she wanted to be the best at it. Her mother, Mary Stavik, recalls, her voice a mix of pride and sorrow. Mandy's older sister, Molly Brighton, describes her as larger than life, a young woman whose energy and ambition seemed boundless. Jim Freeman, Mandy's high school basketball coach, saw her potential both on and off the court. After her parents' divorce, he became a father figure to her, mentoring her through adolescence. At her memorial service, attended by nearly 1,000 people, he delivered the eulogy. You see her smiling back at you, right at your soul with eyes that say, "I love life," he said, his words echoing the loss of a girl who'd left an indelible mark. Mandy expressed her gratitude in a card she once gave him. To Mr. Freeman, the one person who has inspired and influenced me more than anyone. Thank you, you're the greatest. Most sincerely, Mandy, class of '89. On that crisp November day, the day after a hearty Thanksgiving meal, Mandy laced up her running shoes and called for Kyra, her loyal German shepherd. Running was her ritual, a way to clear her mind and stay in shape. She set out from her family's home on Strand Road, heading west toward the quiet, tree-lined stretches of Acme's countryside. She was fast, agile, a runner who could outpace most. It was a route she'd taken countless times, one that felt as familiar as her own heartbeat. But this time, something went horribly wrong. Kyra returned alone. The sight of the dog without Mandy sent a chill through her family. When she didn't come back, I panicked. A loved one recalls, the memory still raw. Word spread like wildfire, and soon, the tight-knit community mobilized. Neighbors, friends, and strangers alike fanned out across Acme, combing fields, roads, and riverbanks. Everybody was out looking, a resident remembers. It was like the whole town stopped breathing. For 3 agonizing days, hope hung by a thread. A grim discovery. On November 27, 1989, that thread snapped. Detective Ron Peterson, a seasoned officer with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office, was leading the search team. He navigated his Zodiac boat up the South Fork of the Nooksack River, upstream from where Mandy was last seen. We came around a corner, moving from the main river into a little side channel, he recalls. I saw something pink floating on the water. As he drew closer, his heart sank. It was Mandy, her body drifting gently, clad only in her running shoes and socks. Peterson, a father himself, felt the weight of the moment crash over him. She was just floating lightly, he says, his voice trembling with the memory. The only thing I could see were her tennis shoes and socks. When I rolled her over, it was a real shock to me. She looked like my daughter. He pauses, then adds softly, "You're the first person to ask what I said to her." I said, "I got you." It was a promise whispered to a girl he couldn't save, a vow to find who'd done this. The discovery unleashed a torrent of grief and fear in Acme. We were in shock, Peterson says. People were crying, hugging each other. There was a killer out there somewhere. The serene riverbank where Mandy was found became a solemn place, a haunting reminder of what had been stolen. For Peterson, pulling her from the water was a moment that would haunt him for decades. It rips you to pieces, he admits. People would say, "Oh, you're so strong." Yeah, right. You can't be strong through something like that. The investigation begins. The condition of Mandy's body told a grim story. Scratches on her arms and legs, likely from blackberry bushes, suggested she'd fought to escape. She was running away, through the thorns, Peterson theorizes. Whoever had her caught up, hit her in the head, knocked her out, and then placed her in the river to make sure she drowned. Investigators believe the assailant used a weapon, probably a gun, to subdue her. Mandy was too fast to catch on foot, says Kevin Bowie, then a rookie deputy who'd later take the lead on the case. He pointed a gun at her and said, "Get in." She had no choice but to comply. Peterson had recently completed FBI training on DNA evidence recovery, and he knew the stakes. "My biggest fear was how to get her out without disturbing anything," he says. His meticulous care paid off. During the autopsy, forensic experts found male DNA, semen, on Mandy's body, confirming she'd been sexually assaulted before her death. It was a breakthrough, a tangible clue in a case that would soon grow maddeningly elusive. The investigation kicked into high gear. Deputies canvassed Acme, interviewing anyone who might have seen Mandy that day. Kevin Bowie, reconstructing her route years later, pieced together her final moments. She started from the house here and ran westbound toward the west side of Strand Road. He explains. The last person to see her alive was a man in a pickup truck. She ran right in front of him, heading around the bend toward home, about an eighth of a mile away. Bowie believes she was abducted in a wooded area just ahead, roughly 3.5 miles from where her body was found. Her attacker kicked Kyra into a ditch, then took her, he posits. Suspects emerged quickly. David Succi, a local drifter spotted near the area that day, was an early focus. Deputies obtained a warrant, collected his DNA, and tested it. Negative. Rick Zinder, Mandy's boyfriend, was questioned and cleared. Over time, about 30 local men voluntarily provided DNA samples, but none matched the profile from the crime scene. Tips flooded in, each one chased down with fervor, only to lead to dead ends. You look for the person who's strange, who doesn't fit, Bowie says. But in Acme, where everyone seemed to belong, the killer remained a ghost. A cold case in a wounded town. As months turned to years, the Mandy Stavik case grew cold. For 25 years, we had no viable suspects, Peterson laments. I absolutely did not think it would ever get solved. Mandy was gone, but the investigation refused to die, simmering beneath the surface of Acme's daily life. The town carried on, but it was a shadow of its former self. What was lost for this community with Mandy's death? Peterson reflects. A sense of innocence, more than anything. Mary Stavik lived in quiet torment. I just really didn't have any hope, she says. That became more ingrained in me as the years went on. The lack of progress gnawed at her, a constant reminder of her daughter's unavenged death. Molly, too, felt the void. Mandy accomplished a lot in the short time she was here, she says. All that promise came to an abrupt end. For Detective Ron Peterson and his colleagues, letting go wasn't an option. You've got to keep working, keep persistent, keep going, he says. The case file gathered dust, but it was never closed. In 2009, Kevin Bowie, now a seasoned investigator and a Mount Baker High alumnus like Mandy, took the reins. We needed some answers, he says. We needed to get to the bottom of it. He pored over old reports, re-interviewed witnesses, and revisited leads. One name caught his eye, John Wisniewski, a local drug dealer who'd bragged he might know the killer. His DNA didn't match, but Bowie wasn't convinced. In 2010, he traveled to Cambodia, where Wisniewski had relocated, to confront him. What did your gut tell you? A colleague asked Bowie later. I thought he was a good liar, Bowie replies. He kept saying, I don't know who did this. I didn't believe him, but a feeling isn't evidence. Another dead end. The case remained a maddening puzzle, its pieces scattered across decades. A breakthrough at the water park. The turning point came on an ordinary day in June 2013, far from the crime scene, at a water park. Heather Backstrom and Marilee Anderson, both Mount Baker High graduates, were watching their kids splash downslides when Mandy's name surfaced in conversation. I just kind of turned to Marilee and said, I'm sure I know who killed her, Heather recalls. Marilee nodded. I do too. Their shared suspect, Timothy Bass, a man who lived less than 2 miles from Mandy's house, right along her running route. Heather's suspicion stemmed from a disturbing encounter in the summer of 1989, months before Mandy's murder. At 15, she joined friends for a post-softball game trip to Dairy Queen. Bass, then in his 20s, sat next to her in a truck. He talked about my eyes, saying they were beautiful, she says. Then he took a pin from the cup holder and started rubbing it along my knees. I was wearing cut-off sweatpants. I was scared. She was too young, too rattled to speak up then. Marilee's experience was even more chilling. In July 1991, she was home alone with her young son when Bass knocked on her door. He said he'd been hunting all day and needed to use the phone to call his wife, she recounts. She handed him the phone, but heard the telltale beeps of a disconnected line. I knew something was up. Then Bass walked through her kitchen to her bedroom. He said he used to drive by her house, that he'd always been in love with me and wanted to make love to me right then. Terrified, she demanded he leave. He refused until she threatened to call the police. Both women had kept their fears private, wary of stirring trouble in a small town. To accuse someone without being sure is scary, Marilee admits. Heather agrees. I never told a friend or family member because of the weight of it. But that day at the water park, decades of silence broke. They named Tim Bass aloud, and Marilee contacted Detective Ken Gates, another Mount Baker alum, with their hunch. The hunt for DNA. Tim Bass had slipped under the radar for years. In 1989, he lived in a house along Mandy's running route, a detail overlooked because his family was well-liked. By 2013, he was a married father of 3, driving a delivery truck for a bakery, living quietly near Acme. He had no criminal record, nothing to draw attention. He worked and came home, Gates notes. But the water park tip changed everything. In 2017, police visited Bass at home. Very non-threatening, Bowie says of their approach. Asked about Mandy, Bass played dumb. Mandy? Mandy who? He said, then added, oh yeah, the girl they found on the river. His feigned ignorance raised red flags. When asked for a saliva sample, he balked. I watch those crime shows, he said. I see how many people go to prison because they give DNA. Undeterred, police shadowed Bass on his delivery route, hoping he'd discard something with DNA. We followed him all night long, Bowie says. But Bass was cautious, and the surveillance yielded nothing. Then an unlikely ally emerged, Kim Wagner, Bass's boss at the bakery. I wasn't going to take no for an answer, she says. I'm going to get you something. She began watching him closely, emptying trash bins to catch any slip-up. Wagner found Bass odd. You never knew what Tim was going to be like at work, she says. The smallest thing would anger him. He never called me Kim, always woman. When police confided they needed his DNA for the Stavik case, she didn't hesitate. You guys want DNA, don't you? She asked. I can get it for you. For 3 months, she played detective, her heart racing with the possibility she worked alongside a killer. Then, one day, Bass tossed a plastic cup and a Coke can. I stood there and went, it's game time, she recalls. I grabbed them, threw them on my desk, and called the cops. Jackpot. The wait for lab results was excruciating. 3 months later, in late 2017, Bowie got the call. Kevin, we've got a match, lab tech Katie said. You hear those words, but you're not sure you're hearing them, Bowie says. It's like I'm dreaming. I was just like, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. A lot of tears. The DNA from Wagner's trash haul matched the semen recovered from Mandy's body 28 years earlier. The arrest and a shifting story. On December 12, 2017, police arrested 50-year-old Tim Bass in the bakery parking lot as he left work. You're under arrest for the murder of Mandy Stavik, Bowie told him as handcuffs clicked. It was a moment 28 years in the making, and it landed on Mary Stavik's birthday. The sheriff knocked on her door with the news. We've got him, he said. That's all he said. We've got him. Mary was stunned. I really never dreamed it, she says. Molly called it a birthday present, her voice breaking with relief. In interrogation, Bass's story morphed. I just wanted to let you know I slept with Mandy, he claimed, alleging a secret affair. It was more of a friendship thing. We talked, and it grew into something physical. We didn't do it that much. But when pressed, then why would your DNA be inside her? He faltered. How did you get my DNA? He demanded, his denial crumbling. Investigators believe Bass had fixated on Mandy as she jogged past his house. His brother, Tom, painted a troubling picture. Social interactions were never natural to him, Tom says. As a teen, Bass fired a gun into the air after a breakup, a sign of deeper issues. There was disgust, disrespect toward women, Tom adds. Bass's ex-wife, Gina Malone, married him 6 weeks after Mandy's murder. I married him to get away from home, she says. It was like prison. He'd say, go get me a drink, make me food. I felt like his servant. The trial, DNA versus denial. The trial began in May 2019, 30 years after Mandy's death. Prosecutor Dave McEachran, 73, came out of retirement to lead the case unpaid. She was such a good kid, he says. It just shouldn't have happened. The state's case was straightforward. Base's DNA was inside Mandy. She was abducted, raped, and killed. Case closed, McEachran argued. Defense attorney Stephen Jackson countered with a bombshell. Base and Mandy had consensual sex hours before her murder. There were no signs of a struggle, he told jurors. Evidence of sexual contact isn't evidence of rape. Base stuck to his story. Everything I've said is the truth, he insisted in interrogation tapes. It was a friendship that turned physical. Testimony painted a darker portrait. Gina, divorced after Base's arrest, said he asked his mother to lie and blame his late father. Tom recounted Base urging him to claim he'd slept with Mandy too, to make it look like she got around. Kim Wagner took the stand, reliving her covert mission. If Tim was involved, I wanted to do the right thing for Mandy, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. Forensic experts clashed. Defense witness Dr. Elizabeth Johnson said the semen could have been deposited up to 48 hours before death, supporting Base's tale. But Dr. Gary Goldfogel, the original medical examiner, insisted it was much sooner, aligning with a rape and murder timeline. She was raped, killed, and drowned in the river, he testified. After 9 days, the jury deliberated for 5 hours. I was terrified, Mary recalls. I kept thinking, please do the right thing. Juror Ed Beeman says they pored over evidence like detectives, debating reasonable doubt. On May 24, 2019, 29 years and 6 months after Mandy's death, they delivered their verdict, guilty of murder, rape, and kidnapping. It was such a relief, Bowie says, watching the Stavik family embrace through tears. This is what justice looks like. Sentencing and closure. 6 weeks later, Base faced sentencing. Mary and Molly were too emotional to speak. Molly's husband, Mike Brighton, stood for them. Timothy Forrest Base must never walk the earth as a free man, he said. Base's mother, Sandra, defended her son, denying he'd implicated his father. I know he's not guilty, she insisted. Base spoke, unrepentant. I'm 100% innocent, he claimed. I don't believe I received a fair trial. The judge was unmoved. For 30 years, you've lived free from responsibility, but that life was a lie, he said, sentencing Base to nearly 27 years, the maximum without premeditated murder charges. It's not enough, Bowie says. He should never get out. For Mary, it was closure. They got the guy who did it, she says. He'll spend enough years in jail that his life will be over if he gets out. Tom wonders if Base might have targeted others, like Heather or Marilee. We're lucky to be alive, Heather reflects. She and Marilee take pride in their roles. 3 women's words took him down, Marilee says. I love that. A village's triumph. Acme lost its innocence with Mandy's death, but it regained something through her justice. It really took a village, Wagner says. From Peterson's recovery of her body to Bowie's relentless pursuit, from the water park tip to Wagner's trash can coup, the community never gave up. The sheriff's office never forgot Mandy, Bowie says. We got the right guy. The community can feel safe and whole again. Mandy Stavik, basketball star, cheerleader, dreamer, lives on in Acme's memory. Her death was a tragedy, but her story is a testament to resilience, to a town that refused to let a killer define it. I hope the family can heal, Wagner says. For Mary, Molly, and all who loved Mandy, the pain lingers, but so does the solace of justice, hard won after 30 years.